Well, that's taken me 76 years to find out. um, maybe the better question is, how did I get into this profession?
Right.
Because I really do live my profession. Although I have a wonderful family life of three daughters and a couple of stepdaughters and no males except the husbands and the grandchildren. I do have one grandson, but we have wonderful family get-togethers. But professionally, I didn't intend to be a psychologist. I was going to become an osteopath. And I discovered rather quickly that if I was an osteopath, I was going to get sent to Vietnam as a medic. And so I switched to special education because I knew that there was a need for special education teachers in the inner city of Chicago, and that would keep me out of Vietnam. And I fell in love with the kids. And I kept going to evening school and taking courses in psychology because I didn't think I knew what I was doing. And with that, I learned more, and I started doing child therapy in the evenings while being a teacher in the daytime. And then I got promoted to the university, and then in 1967, a man got into a hospital dormitory and killed a bunch of nurses, tied up others, and he actually butchered the women. And so I got to be the therapist to those who survived. And I had 2 hours of supervision every day for 4 days a week with Bob Neville, who was Carl Rogers' partner. So and we did the therapy, or I did the therapy in group and individual, very much in a client-centered way. And I am surprised to this day how much they changed in the 2 years I worked with them. The trauma really lifted from them, as far as I could tell, because they started talking about other things like their boyfriends and how they were going to pass the exam. And then I met Fritz Perls. I had a chance to study with Eric Byrne, but I mentioned to Fritz Perls what I was going to do, and he said, "Oh, it's all that game stuff." So he put it down, so I didn't go. And worked with Fritz Perls for a couple of years, and then I did have another chance to work with Eric Byrne. Fanita English had brought him to Chicago, and we had a snowstorm. And I got partway there, I turned around and went back. And so I never met Eric Byrne. But then in 1969, I met David Cuffer in a workshop. And he was drawing these little circles on the board, and suddenly what I was doing made sense to me with parent, adult, and child, and how he explained it, which is very different than the pop TA, about explaining that the parent is really the interjection of the personality of someone else. And the child is that fixation in the past of how we thought, felt, responded to conflicts and traumas in our life. And that the adult was that personality of the mature personality. So that made a lot of sense to me. So I got very involved in TA and actually let my involvement in the Gestalt world sort of fade in the past. Then when I moved into New York, I started my 20 years of training in psychoanalysis and my own 10 years of my own psychoanalysis. So I'm sort of my own integration. I know I'd go to the TA meetings and they would refer to me as a hidden psychoanalyst in the group. I'd go to the Gestalt meetings and they would refer to me as a hidden TA person. And I'd go to the psychoanalytic meetings and they would refer to me as the hidden Gestalt person. So I think that's a compliment.
Yeah.
So that's who I am professionally. I read a lot. I go to other people's workshops. And every time I write, I'm writing to solve some kind of dilemma for me, of how I have pulled some ideas together to make sense out of something that previously was baffling to me.